Hey guys, welcome back. I know I haven't shown too much of this car lately. This is my 68 twin turbo Pontiac LeMans on air ride. And I'm having a bit of an issue with it. That issue being, I took it out the other night and this is on a Terminator, and on the screen, key it on in a second here once I find the keys. There we go. The problem I'm having is I took it out the other night and my battery, you can see that without the glare, my battery gauge started flashing yellow, which with the Terminators, if you have anything starting to veer off on what it's supposed to be, it shows up yellow first and then goes to red. This car usually cruises at around 14 volts when it's running. Over the last couple weeks, it started dipping down to like 13.8, 13.6, 13.4, and then a couple nights ago I went to a cruise night, and like anytime you're supposed to leave a cruise night, you're supposed to do a burnout. I did a pretty good burnout. I had the thing pretty much on the limiter, and shortly thereafter my battery light came on and it was reading about 12.4, 12.2, and because the car's on air ride, I have to air it up once in a while, and as soon as I turn my compressors on, the voltage would drop even lower. So I feel like the alternator is having a bad time, and then out for a walk. I parked the car for the night and I didn't bother looking at anything. So the next day I came out and I had some oil on the floor that I didn't really notice before. And when I opened the engine bay, I basically had oil on everything. Power steering pump was covered in oil. The steering box was covered in oil. I had oil coming down from the drain on the turbo down there. Everything had oil on it. The cross member down below, you name it, there was oil on it. So I had a hard time figuring out where the leak was coming from, whether it was a power steering leak, an engine oil leak, or all of the above. It looks like this hose on the bottom of the power steering pump is leaking a bit. It does look like the drain on the turbo is leaking a bit. But what I noticed was there was drops of oil hanging off the alternator. So I feel like the alternator has had oil leaking onto it for a little while now, and that may be hurting it. So last night I got in here with a can of brake clean, tried to clean off all the oil that I could, because I gotta find out where this leak is coming from. But after talking with a local automotive electric shop, they told me there's a good chance the alternator could be hurt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it off today, drop it off with them in the morning. They're going to go through it, they're going to test it, and if it needs to be rebuilt, they're going to rebuild it that day. I should have it back the following day. And then hopefully we get this thing up to where it should be again. I can find the leak, fix that, and move on. I'm gonna fire it up right now and we'll see if it's still doing what it was doing 2 nights ago. So it is climbing, sitting at about 13.6, 13.7, not too bad. Maybe because the oil's cleaned out of it now after all that brake clean went through it, might be a little bit better. Yeah, it's dancing around 13.7, 13.8, which isn't bad. But I think I'm going to play it safe, take it off, send it in, have it looked at. Maybe I'll just have it rebuilt while I have it out. The other problem comes into play is I had the whole front drive assembly assembled on this motor before I put it in the car. I don't know if I can get the alternator off because it is tucked down in there. I'm going to take this charge pipe off. I may have to take the other charge pipe off down there and then see if I can get it out. Because like it's got the power steering pump right up against, well, not right up against it, but it's got about 1/4 of an inch between it and the power steering pump, or the power steering box. So this could turn into a lousy job. It might come out easy, we'll find out. But I'm gonna start ripping this thing apart now and see if we can get it out. Alright, so not the worst alternator to get out. The bolt on the back was definitely a little frustrating to try and get to, but it's out. Now, I had already sprayed this thing down last night with a ton of brake clean, but there's still, like, the plug was full of oil. You can see all the oil residue still in the back. I couldn't get all of it off. But yeah, it has seen better days. So I'm gonna take this thing in tomorrow and get it tested, possibly just go ahead and just get it rebuilt while it's out, and then we'll get her back in and hopefully that fixes our issue. But overall, yeah, not too bad of a job getting it out. I was really worried that I wouldn't have the room, especially with all the steering linkage and everything down there. I was able to go out the bottom once I separated the alternator from the idler pulley here that it sits inside. Together they would not come out. But it's out now. We'll see what she comes back as tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day and here's where we're at. The old alternator basically was not worth repairing. Everything inside had been soaked in oil, and the guy who's going to rebuild it said at that point he'd be replacing absolutely everything inside it, and he goes, I might as well just buy a new one. So that's what I did, got a new one. And I went ahead and tightened everything that I thought could be leaking. And see if I can show you here. This hose clamp on the bottom of the power steering reservoir was loose. It's hard to see, but down there, see the yellow? That's one of the hoses. There's actually 3 hose clamps right there. There's a T. Each one of those hose clamps, it's all for the power steering, was loose. Now I know when I put the power steering system together, sorry, that's not even for the power steering. It runs off the power steering pump, but it's for the power steering and the brake booster. It's a hydro booster. So that's why there's a T there. There's everything, like there's 2 things running off the power steering pump. But the hose clamps, I know I tightened those years ago when I put the system in, but I don't know if over the years, you know, the rubber gets soft, things get hot. Regardless, I got like 2 to 3 full turns out of each screw on the gear clamps. So that might have been where all my oil was coming from. And at one point, I had, it was about 2 months ago, I had to replace this hose. This is from the heat crossover, comes up here to the rad, and it had actually rubbed on the belt. The belt comes across underneath it, and it rubbed a little hole in the bottom, and it sprayed coolant all over everything. So that's why this looks like it's covered in a rusty water film that's very hard to get off. It took me a while to clean everything in here. This whole front pulley was brown. I had a brown streak going across my hood. You can kind of see it a little bit on the back of this heat shield. Everything here was brown. You can still see a bit of it up here, brown. Everything stained brown. Even when, you know, charge pipe still has brown water stains on it. So at one point this alternator had antifreeze spraying on it. Then it had oil dripping onto it, and it just kind of did it in. So we got everything tightened up. This hose has been replaced. We're going to get this alternator back in, belt on, and we'll fire it up and hopefully be back in business. So time to get to it. Well, that was less fun than taking it apart, but it's all back together. Definitely a tight fit down there, but everything's cleaned up, everything's tight. I'm gonna fire it up now and see if we've solved our issue. We're running at 14 volts at the moment. Got a little belt chirp. I had that before. Once it warms up, it goes away. See? 14. Well, that's good. And that's with batteries that are, I mean, it's reading what the alternator's putting out, but it's still trying to charge 2 batteries that are not doing so hot because of the last alternator. But that's good. It's doing better. The other alternator, I mean, when I took it out, it said it was charging at like 13.7, 13.8. But I noticed the last couple times I took it out, it would start at that, and then the voltage would drop as I'm driving. And yeah, it got down to 12.4 last time. But this is starting out a lot healthier. That's 14 volts. I'm happy with that. So the car is healthy again. For now, I gotta monitor those leaks. Yeah, I've kind of been neglecting the maintenance on this car. I've just been driving. I just get in it and drive it. I did change the oil at the beginning of the year, but that was about all I've done to this car since last year. But going forward, this car's gonna be going on a dyno again. I got something planned coming up. That's why I wanted to try and get some of this stuff taken care of. I want to make sure it's good to go. But that's what we have to look forward to with the car. Now I do have a bit of an announcement to make. It's minor. I will be changing the name of my YouTube channel. I mean, when I came up with the name Speedy Canuck, you know, I like going fast. I love working on cars, and I'm Canadian. But I feel like I wanted to name the channel something that is who I am. I'm an average guy. I'm a father of 4, and I feel like going forward with this channel, if it turns into anything, I want it to really represent who I am. And the next time you see a video pop up, it won't be Speedy Canuck anymore. You'll just have to see what it is. But yeah, it's you know, minor announcement. It's nothing huge, but just letting you know this will be the last video you see under the Speedy Canuck name, and it will be changing for the next one. We do have some cool stuff coming up. I'm going to be doing more with the car. I haven't really been filming anything with the car for a while. Pretty much the last time I took it to the track, I think was the last time I videoed anything, and that was last year. So I will be doing more with it. I'll be showing you guys the fun I've been having with it. And yeah, that's it. That's an update for now. Wait till you see the next video. We'll see you later.